You know, the one good thing about going last, I guess, is that pretty much all my talk has already been taken care of by everybody that's been here first. So even if they don't get the slides up, I'll be okay. Oh, there we go. I have one disclosure, but it has nothing to do with this topic specifically. You know, as I mentioned, you know, what to look for in a leader, you know, you really already heard that. And I can honestly just show this picture. They've already talked about it. I can sit down. I don't think that's really what Denise wanted, so I'll go a little bit more in depth than that. And what I really want to do are a couple of things. Sort of describe why specific leadership, I believe, specific leadership abilities, I believe, are needed for a simulation leader. Kind of discuss the methods of that leadership, and then finally show an example of such a leader. So why do I think there's a specific type of leader that's needed? You know, when you really look at it, leadership isn't you're not a type, but it's actually, you need to be a situational leader, and you have to create your leadership style, your leadership abilities, based on the situation you're put in. And I'm going to propose to you what I see as the situation currently still in simulation. You know, the fact is we are in our infancy still. We've moved a long ways. And I realize there also have been simulation had been occurring prior to the 1990s, but really is 1990s to 2000s is when really things started coming into play significantly with respect to surgery. When you compare this to the aviation industry, which we always seem to be compared to, guys, this is the Link Trainer. It is the original flight simulator. It was built in 1929. So they've got 70 years on us. So I would suggest we still are in our infancy from that standpoint. So that in itself creates a challenge for the leaders in simulation. Another thing that creates a challenge in simulation for leaders, particularly, is the concept of this diffusion of innovation. You know, how many here got the first iPhone when it first came out? Raise your hands. Okay, about 2 people, 3, 4. How many got an iPhone or at least a some sort of smartphone, say within the first year? How many have them now? Right. This happens over and over again. And I think it's the same way with simulation if you think about it. And where are we now on this? You know, that's up for debate. We're certainly beyond the innovators. You know, we've seen and talked about innovators here today. We're probably beyond the early adapters. I would suggest we're at least in that early majority, hopefully moving beyond that. And I think all of you guys see that. We heard that with questions with respect to faculty development, right? You have people that really haven't had that complete buy-in at this point in time. I'm sure in your shop you have plenty of individuals, whether they're residents, saying, why do I have to go to this simulation when I can't I just go to the OR? I'm sure you have faculty saying the same thing. Why is my resident being pulled from my service to go to simulation? This is common everywhere. So we're still dealing with that late majority, the laggards, so to speak. They'll come along, but it's going to take us some time. Given that, it does take a certain type of leader to actually make this happen. And that type of leader, as I see it, is someone that actually is focused on change leadership. Now, this is actually based on John Cotter's work of change leadership and the methods we go through. And I'm going to use these and kind of show you, and interestingly enough, most of these were already talked about previously today. Establishing a sense of urgency, the idea of getting to the dean and explaining why it needs to be done for the medical students, why it needs to be done for the residents. These kind of things are certainly there. A sense of urgency with respect to malpractice and actually looking at outcomes. These are important things and things you can take to create that sense of urgency to make a difference. We heard over and over again the group of that coalition that you need. You need to have those people working together. Even when you talk about research, that we're talking about individuals, you need to get together to move that forward. I don't think there was a speaker up here today that didn't talk about vision. And we have to have that vision to continue to move things forward with respect to whether that be research, whether that be identifying what you need and the like. Critical to communicate that vision, right? Not only can have it, but you have to communicate it as well. Next, that coalition, you can't do it by yourself. Dr. Stefanidis talked about that as well. It can't be done by itself. You have to have those people around. You know, we're busy individuals. We can't do it by ourselves. And even in the change aspect, you need to create that coalition. You have to have people around you if you're going to make a difference. Short-term wins, whether that be research protocols, research projects, whether that be quite something as simple as having individuals like what they're doing and going back to the dean and saying, this has improved the curriculum, this has improved the clerkship, this has improved your residency. All of these things are those short-term wins. We also heard the idea of small bits and pieces. Don't make it really big to begin with. That's how you get those short wins. So from a leadership standpoint, that's another area. And the last part really kind of go together, and we heard again, that iterative process. You don't stop with what you start with, you keep going. You look at it again, you reevaluate it over and over and over again. That's how you can move things forward. So what would this look like? Can we get the sound? Although we don't really need the sound. This is a leader. This is a simulation leader out there, kind of by himself right now. There's your collaborator. So you look at that, that's really where we are right now. I think you have to think about the concept that we're still in the middle of a change. And that's the way you need to lead as we move through this process. And so the really conclusion, simulation must, you got to be able to dance on your own first, right? You got to be able to run with scissors. And you got to stomp in those mud puddles. And if we do that, I think if you do that as a leader, you're going to make an effective difference in your simulation center, your simulation program, your research, and quite frankly, make a difference on the national stage as well. Thank you.